Hey everyone, welcome back to MangaMinute. I'm thrilled to share my latest recap video with you. If you missed the previous one, no worries, just take a quick peek in the description below for the link. Now, let's dive right in and enjoy.
The young Jinwei stood alone, the crowd's hateful words and harsh glares piercing through her like daggers. The cries of "Monster! You're a monster!" echoed in her ears, each accusation weighing heavily on her fragile heart. She had always been different, and now that difference marked her as something to be feared, something unworthy of their acceptance. The weight of their scorn pressed down on her, isolating her further from the world around her. Amid the sea of judgment and contempt, a single figure stepped forward. It was John Young, the leader of the Guangdong sect, a man known for his strength and wisdom. Without hesitation, he offered a small rice ball to Jinwei, a gesture so simple yet filled with warmth. His gaze was steady and free of the malice that filled the eyes of the others. He spoke words of kindness, urging Jinwei to ignore the slanderous accusations hurled at her. To him, she was not a monster but simply another human being, standing under the same sky as everyone else. John Young's voice carried a sense of hope, offering a path forward for the lost and forsaken Jinwei. Anything she lacked could be learned, he said, and there was no need to carry the burden of others' cruelty. His invitation was genuine, a chance to escape the chains of judgment and start anew under his guidance. At that moment, Jinwei's life took a pivotal turn. She saw in John Young not just a mentor but a chance to prove her worth, to rise above the labels others had placed on her. As Jinwei embraced Lee Cheol-soo, his arms wrapped gently around him, trying to offer comfort to his junior brother. There was a genuine warmth in the gesture, a sense of reassurance as he tried to ease the turmoil he was feeling. The Guangdong sect was a family, and Jinwei wanted Cheol-soo to understand that no matter how lacking his martial arts might be, he belonged here. He would stand by him, offering her support whenever he needed it. For Cheol-soo, however, the situation was far from comforting. The physical closeness of the embrace unnerved him. He couldn't ignore the strange sensation pressing against his chest. Startled by the unfamiliar softness, his mind began to race. In his confusion, Cheol-soo came to a misguided conclusion. To him, Jinwei's masterful prowess in martial arts, coupled with this unexpected softness, was the result of an ailment. Gynecomastia, he reasoned, a condition he was all too familiar with from his previous life. Cheol-soo recalled his own struggles with the condition during his first life, how he had overcome it through a grueling transformation. He was sympathetic now, misunderstanding Jinwei's circumstances entirely. Despite the softness he felt, his conviction that Jinwei was a man remained unshaken. His mind clung to the conclusions drawn by the Imperial Palace's intelligence agencies, which had a near-perfect track record when it came to identifying people. There was no way, he believed, that his senior brother could be anything but a man. As Jinwei held him close, offering his unwavering support, Cheol-soo's thoughts spiraled deeper into this mistaken understanding. He found himself feeling an unexpected kinship, not because he suspected Jinwei's true identity, but because he believed they shared a similar plight. This misunderstanding clouded the moment entirely, turning what should have been a moment of comfort into one of bewildering confusion for Cheol-soo. The day had finally arrived when John Young, the esteemed leader of the Guangdong sect, stood before his disciples at the training ground. With a commanding voice, he announced that their external martial arts training had come to an end. The rigorous conditioning of bones and muscles had shaped their bodies into capable vessels, and now it was time to shift focus to the more refined discipline of internal martial arts. His gaze fell on Lee Cheol-soo, acknowledging the hard work that had brought him to this moment. Cheol-soo's foundational development had progressed well, making him ready for the next stage. Beside him, Jinwei, always brimming with enthusiasm, couldn't contain his excitement. He praised Cheol-soo with genuine joy, congratulating his junior brother on this significant milestone. Yet, while his tone was bright, Cheol-soo's response was noticeably restrained. His mind wasn't entirely focused on the achievement. Inwardly, Cheol-soo couldn't help but feel irritated by Jinwei's constant presence. Though he was glad to move on to the internal arts, his thoughts swirled with frustration. Jinwei's endless eagerness to assist him, even in mundane tasks like preparing breakfast, grated on him. It wasn't that he disliked Jinwei, but his relentless helpfulness bordered on overbearing. This irritation festered in his mind, dampening his mood on what should have been a celebratory occasion. John Young, noticing the slight shift in Cheol-soo's expression, questioned his well-being, his sharp eyes catching the faint unease in his disciple. Startled, Cheol-soo quickly brushed off any concern, hiding his irritation behind a polite response. Still, his internal frustrations continued to bubble beneath the surface. He knew he needed to let go of such trivial thoughts. Jinwee's constant interference might be bothersome, but it wasn't his biggest problem, not by far. His mind shifted to the more pressing challenges ahead. The transition to internal martial arts would demand his full attention and commitment. With greater goals in sight, Cheol-soo resolved to push aside his annoyance and focus on the path ahead, knowing that far more significant trials awaited him. Lee Cheol-soo stood before John Young, determination flashing in his eyes. Though his master had just commended his progress and suggested shifting focus to internal martial arts, Cheol-soo's resolve held firm. His heart raced as he voiced his desire to continue his external training, even if it meant going against convention. He knew his words might seem brash, but his reasons were clear in his mind. Unlike most disciples who balanced their martial training, Cheol-soo could not afford to neglect the physical foundation he had been building. He understood the typical path well. Once a student shifted to internal martial arts, external training took a back seat, with focus shifting toward cultivating inner energy, refining footwork, and mastering swordsmanship. But Cheol-soo couldn't accept that. His aspirations were not only about martial prowess but about crafting the ultimate physique, one that would not only make him a formidable warrior but captivate and draw attention. Beneath the surface, however, lay a more pressing frustration: his comparison with Jinwee. No matter how hard he trained, he always seemed to lag behind his senior brother, whose talent and aptitude far outpaced his own. As John Young listened, Cheol-soo's internal struggle continued. He realized that maintaining external training alongside internal arts was inefficient and exhausting, but not impossible. With enough effort, the small advantage of superior physical strength could make the difference in combat. To him, each drop of sweat, each muscle hardened through intense labor, held meaning. He envisioned a future where these efforts would culminate in mastery, where his body would become a weapon in its own right, a beauty that would stand tall among masters. His master, John Young, pondered his disciple's words. There was something in Cheol-soo's gaze that caught his attention, a glimmer of understanding beyond mere determination. Unlike others, Cheol-soo knew his own limitations and recognized the need for a different approach. He wasn't graced with extraordinary talent, but he possessed the rare ability to recognize that fact and adapt accordingly. John Young thought back to a time when the Guangdong sect had been able to cultivate talents to their fullest potential, but those days had long since passed, leaving the sect in a weakened state. And yet, here stood Cheol-soo, with a conviction that held meaning beyond the ordinary world. His resolve matched the need to rebuild a fallen legacy. After a moment of silent reflection, John Young made his decision. He passed a paper to Cheol-soo, the manual for So-young Simbeep, the foundational internal martial art of the sect. In his eyes, Cheol-soo's request, though unconventional, held merit in the grander scheme of the sect's future. He could see the potential in his disciple's resolve, one that mirrored the sect's need for different efforts, unconventional paths, and perseverance. Lee Cheol-soo bowed his head humbly in gratitude, his voice steady as he thanked his master. Yet, inwardly, doubts swirled in his mind as he glanced at the paper in his hands. What's happening? He thought. Did I really receive permission to continue my external training? He was uncertain about whether his master truly understood the depth of his request or if the path ahead would be more difficult than anticipated. Though the permission had been granted, he wondered if John Young had reservations about allowing him to pursue this dual path. John Young, observing his disciple's reaction, continued with a weight of authority in his voice. He reminded Cheol-soo of the harsh reality awaiting those without natural talent in the martial world, a place where failure often spelled disaster. Yet, for those with the will to persevere and challenge themselves, all avenues could still be opened. His words carried the wisdom of one who had seen many rise and fall in their pursuit of martial mastery. With a solemn tone, John Young not only gave Cheol-soo permission to continue his additional external training but also bestowed upon him the So-young Simbeep, an invaluable internal martial arts technique. Cheol-soo's heart surged with excitement as his master spoke, his eyes shining with determination. He had been given the chance to train in both disciplines, internal and external, and with the So-young Simbeep, he now held the key to cultivating his inner energy. His mind raced as he absorbed the weight of the moment. The manual for the internal martial art, once taught to him, would provide the foundation for his growth. It was a rare opportunity, one that could push him beyond his limitations. With renewed hope, Cheol-soo answered his master, his voice ringing with resolve. There was no hesitation in his response, only certainty. The road ahead would be difficult, but he was ready to meet the challenge. He would memorize the manual, perfect his external training, and continue striving toward the ideal physique he sought. In that moment, the doubts that had lingered in his heart were swept away by the clear vision of his goal. The paper in his hands, now a symbol of the master's trust, became more than just instructions. It was a guide toward the future he had always envisioned. Cheol-soo stood taller, knowing that this was not just about mastering martial arts. It was about proving his worth and becoming the greatest harem king. Sitting in a lotus position, Lee Cheol-soo steadied his breath, his mind clearing in preparation for what was to come. John-young, standing before him with a calm yet commanding presence, began the process of transferring internal energy. His voice rang out, instructing Cheol-soo with precision, the weight of this moment settling heavily in the air. Cheol-soo responded with unwavering resolve, fully aware of the significance of this training. This was no ordinary exercise. This was the beginning of a transformation. John-young's hands hovered just above Cheol-soo, and with a steady motion, he infused his disciple's body with internal energy, guiding it according to the So-young Simbeep manual that he had entrusted to him. The process required absolute focus, and Cheol-soo was told to remember the path of energy, how it flowed and moved through his body. His mind sharpened, knowing that every detail mattered, every sensation could hold the key to unlocking his potential. As the warm energy swirled within him, Cheol-soo's thoughts quieted, and he became acutely aware of the new sensation forming deep within his solar plexus. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced, even in the memories of his past life. This wasn't the harsh, biting cold of the martial art he had once known, the one that had pierced through him with icy precision. No, this was different. This was warmth. A gentle, soothing energy enveloped his entire being, radiating like sunlight pouring into his veins. The feeling was almost foreign to him, yet it was undeniable. It flowed with a purity and clarity that filled him with a sense of awe. Is this what they call yang qi? He wondered. The energy coursed through him with a natural grace, spreading through his limbs, his chest, his mind, bringing with it a deep sense of vitality. He could feel it taking root, nourishing his body from the inside out. The process continued, John-young's mastery evident in the precise control he wielded over the energy he imparted. Cheol-soo remained still, focusing on the warmth spreading through him, committing every shift and turn of the energy's path to memory. This moment was critical, the foundation upon which his future skills in internal martial arts would be built. The warmth, the strength, and the discipline. All of it fused together as he sat there, letting the power of yang qi settle into his body, reshaping him. The process of infusing internal energy into Lee Cheol-soo came to a close. John-young's voice echoed through the stillness, congratulating his disciple on reaching a significant milestone. Cheol-soo had officially stepped into the realm of internal energy cultivation, a pivotal achievement that marked the beginning of a new chapter in his martial arts journey. Cheol-soo felt a surge of triumph swell within him, a sense of accomplishment that ignited his spirit. No longer burdened by limitations, he felt reborn. The years of struggle, the endless physical training, everything had led him to this moment. Inwardly, he celebrated with wild excitement. I'm no longer just scraping by, he thought. I've been reborn, no longer the eunuch I feared becoming in my weaker state. Now, I am truly on the path to becoming a master. The thought brought a glint of mischief and ambition to his eyes as he imagined his ultimate goal, one step closer to realizing his fantasy of building a harem, a dream that had fueled much of his hidden determination. In the dimly lit room of his quarter, John-young sat quietly, savoring the warmth of his tea. The soft glow from the lantern cast flickering shadows across the walls, adding a serene ambience to the moment. His sharp eyes, though softened by the tranquility of the evening, observed Jin-wee with subtle curiosity. Jin-wee seated across from him, a mixture of determination and humility in his posture. the weight of an unspoken rivalry pressing against his heart. Despite the recent focus on internal martial arts training, Jinwei wasn't ready to abandon the physical discipline that had shaped much of his strength. He sought to continue his external training, not just for personal development but also to maintain an edge over Lee Cheol-soo, the junior he had begun to mentor and compete with in equal measure. John Young, sipping his tea, allowed the silence to stretch between them for a moment, pondering the request. Jinwei's desire was not rooted in jealousy, but in a sense of responsibility, a senior's duty to remain strong, to guide and protect those beneath him. John Young recognized the importance of this dynamic within the sect, a subtle but powerful bond of camaraderie forged through shared hardship and competition. A faint smile tugged at the corners of John Young's lips as he reflected on the growth he had seen in both Jinwei and Lee Cheol-soo. He admired Jinwei's persistence and desire to push further, knowing that in the martial world, such determination would serve him well. Every experience, whether a success or failure, would offer a lesson, and John Young trusted Jinwei to take each challenge in stride. He respected Jinwei's request, allowing the young warrior the freedom to pursue both paths, internal and external, knowing that the journey ahead would only deepen Jinwei's wisdom and strength. Under the vast expanse of the starry night sky, John Young stood in quiet contemplation. The gentle breeze brushed against his face. His gaze remained fixed on the distant stars, their distant light twinkling in the darkness like the faint echoes of a forgotten past. His thoughts drifted to Lee Cheol-soo and Jinwei, two young disciples who had shown immense dedication and sincerity. His mind turned to the memory of his old master, whose dying wish had been to see the clan rise once more from the ashes. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but now, with Cheol-soo's resolve and Jinwei's quiet strength, that dream no longer felt so distant. Despite their youth, their hearts burned with a fierce determination to rebuild the fallen clan and revive the martial arts that had once defined it. John Young felt a sense of peace settle over him, knowing that the future of the clan was in capable hands. Meanwhile, at the base of Joint Mountain, the atmosphere shifted ominously. Deep within the dense, shadowy woods, an unsettling presence stirred. Hidden beneath the thick canopy of trees, where the moonlight barely reached, a giant snake beast lurked in the darkness. Its massive form moved silently, coiling and uncoiling with predatory grace, blending seamlessly into the night. The air around it was thick with a sense of foreboding, as if the very forest held its breath in the creature's presence. Its eyes, gleaming faintly in the dim light, scanned the surroundings with cold calculation. The underbrush rustled faintly, disturbed only by the snake's slow, deliberate movements. It waited patiently, an apex predator in its element, its presence a looming threat to any who dared venture too close. Unseen and unheard, the beast's coiled body tensed, ready to strike at any moment. The woods remained still, shrouded in an eerie silence, as if nature itself had retreated in fear of the monstrous creature. Its silent watch continued, the dark forest serving as both its shelter and its hunting ground, a quiet menace lurking in the heart of the night.